We've been talking about how the Cincinnati Bengals need to start this year for quite some time, and the start of the year is here. Time to go fast.
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, Bengals fans, and welcome to another episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Jake Liscow, he's James Rapien, and we are your hosts of this illustrious podcast. We've been doing this together since, 2021, 2020? We've been doing this podcast, one of the two of us, since 2016, bringing you everything you need to know about your Cincinnati Bengals. And if you're looking for that one-stop shop, you're in the right place. The everydayers already know it. If you make us your first listen, you already know it. We appreciate all of you who make us part of your routine. Today, we're going to be looking at that fast start narrative. Perhaps one last time, perhaps not. I assume this will come up throughout the week. We're gonna revisit it here. We've been talking about it all offseason. Dalton Risner now in the building. You've had a chance to talk to him, James. We're gonna talk about what his role will be, whether he'll be active in week one. And safety last? Thought it was supposed to be safety first, but there's a chance for the Bengals to make their last move of this offseason at that safety position. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. James, the Bengals played their starters in the preseason with Zach Taylor. Time to go fast, right?
Time to go fast. Time to get your dad joke game up. Like Jake, man, that was elite. That got me. I wasn't ready for that one. So yeah, it's time to go fast. They better get off to a hot start. And I said it a few weeks ago. Like, you better beat Cleveland. Don't really care. I don't care who's starting. I don't care if they're talking about Joe Flacco or Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel or at the time Kenny Pickett. And it's going to be Joe Flacco. And it's going to be Dylan Sampson and Jerome Ford in the backfield. And it's going to be Myles Garrett. And it's going to be Denzel Ward. And it's going to be some good pieces, especially on defense. I don't care. It's time to start fast. And so we will see if the preseason helped or hurt or did nothing. Because if Joe goes out there and plays well against the defense that has been a thorn in their side, well, then that preseason has helped. If he doesn't, if this offense doesn't, well, then what was the point of playing these guys in the preseason? So I do think that that's a takeaway that I'm going to have on Sunday, whether they win, lose, draw, whatever. If the offense doesn't play well, then I am going to put to bed Joe Burrow better play in the preseason every year, because that was supposed to be the difference this year. He's healthy, which means they better start fast and they better put up a ton of points in Cleveland.
Yeah, when we're talking about starting fast, I do think that right now the expectation is on the offensive side of the ball, right? Like, do we have any expectation really for the defense at this point that we think they're going to shock us? I mean, they do. We've heard them talk repeatedly in the last couple of weeks about how they're not showing anything and how they're betting on themselves and how they think they're going to shock the world and they're way better than anyone's giving them credit for. They're aware of the narratives out there. And if they play with a chip on their shoulder and that helps motivate them, great. But I think the expectations are on the offensive side of the ball, right? We're talking about the continuity or chemistry, I think, would probably be the better C word for the offensive line and how those guys have come along together. And that includes whoever's starting at right guard. I think right now, as of when we're recording this episode, it feels like it's going to be Lucas Patrick. And we'll get into that conversation in a little bit more depth in a minute. But whoever that is, we're talking about the chemistry on the offensive line, and we're talking about Joe. Because it's been largely a Joe Burrow driven issue with some of these slow starts that they've had. Obviously, the inability to finish games on both sides of the ball last year started to show its head early. So that could be something that we're talking about when we're talking about fast starts too, is the ability to finish games. I remember last year we were talking about fast starts on a weekly basis. Like, can they get out to a fast start in this game? Yep. And then it became, well, yeah, but they also need to finish the game. You need to protect that fourth quarter 2-score lead against the Baltimore Ravens, that multiple fourth quarter 2-score leads that they had against the Baltimore Ravens last year. But Absolutely, it starts with the week 1 win. Within that context, though, we're looking for Joe Burrow to be sharp and playing on time. When you know Joe Burrow is playing well, it's when you look at a number of plays throughout that game and you're like, man, that ball came out at exactly the time it needed to come out.
Mhm.
Like he's feeling that rush perfectly. He knows exactly when the ball needs to be out. It's out, it's on time, it's in the right place. That's when you know Joe Burrow's going well. And I think that more than anything is for me what the fast start narrative has boiled down to as week 1 approaches.
Yeah, I was looking at Joe's stats from week 1 as you were talking there, and it was the only game last year outside of the finale in Pittsburgh and the loss to Philadelphia. So you think about that. T. Higgins gets hurt in Pittsburgh. They win. The defense is a big reason why. It's one of the lone times where the defense really stepped up. The Philadelphia win or loss really got away from them. It was a close game and gets away from them in the second half and they get routed. And then week 1 against the crappy Patriots, only 3 games where he averaged under 6 yards per attempt. He completed 72% of his passes, but didn't have a touchdown. Obviously, he had the Mike Gesicki touchdown that wasn't, was sacked 3 times. And it was just an ugly overall game. They only ran 51 offensive plays. And so that's where the expectations are. Is, well, you arguably have the best quarterback on the planet. He wanted preseason snaps so he could be ready to go. He's definitely, like, without a doubt, I've watched every training camp of his career. And I think I've been at every training camp practice, I want to say, besides maybe one. Maybe there's one here or there that I missed. But the point is, this has been the best training camp of his career. And so if there was ever a time where they were going to go to Cleveland, beat a team in the Browns that has 0 expectations, whether it's nationally or locally in Cleveland, it's not like they're thinking they're going to shock the world locally. And you got to go up there, and the offense, the thing that is supposed to carry you, needs to carry you early on while the defense finds its footing. And they haven't been in that position in recent years. There's been a bunch of reasons for it. Joe coming off of injury, Jamar Chase's contract situation, other injuries. T. Higgins didn't play last year in week 1. That gets kind of overlooked. He got hurt that Thursday in practice and missed a couple of games. If he plays, I think they beat the Patriots and they probably beat the Chiefs. Maybe we're not even having this conversation if that happens. As weird as that is, and as crazy as that is in a different universe. But guess what? It didn't happen. So now all systems need to be going in the direction of going to Cleveland and winning, especially because it's a winnable game in your division. And there aren't many of those. And by winnable, I mean a game that we expect them to win, even if they don't play their best. I think that's reasonable to say on the road, which is tough to do. If you don't play your best against Baltimore, probably losing that game. You don't play your best in Cleveland, you should still win it. So expectations, win. Joe and the offense play pretty darn well.
One of the biggest road favorites in week 1 are the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm just scrolling through to make sure I'm not missing anything. I think only the Denver Broncos playing at New York at the Jets are bigger week 1 road favorites, according to FanDuel. 6.5 points for Denver, 5.5 points for Cincinnati, which is actually tied with Arizona at New Orleans. There's an interesting one in the NFC. But you make a great point there about T. Higgins, James, that I wanted to circle back to because, and the Athletic Football Show pointed this out. I think it was Derek Klassen. He was talking to Robert Mays. Joe Goodberry clipped this. If you're looking for the clip, if you don't want to watch the whole thing, but the Athletic Football Show guys generally do a good job. And honestly, I was thinking about doing a whole segment on this today, James. But the stat is essentially when T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow are on the field together in that Cincinnati offense. In 2025, they led the league in EPA per play, which is expected points added per play. If you've never heard that before, it's a way of measuring efficiency of an offense, which pretty much says, does this play make you more or less likely to score points? If you're expected to score 3 points when you're on the 30-yard line, and then you throw a touchdown pass on that play, that's worth 3 points in expected points added. So that's just an example of that kind of thing. Very basic example. So Bengals led the league in EPA per play when those 3 were on the field, beating out Baltimore last year, and led the league in success rate when those 3 were on the field. The entire offense, not just passing offense. That was the interesting distinction that they made. Best offense in the NFL is what that tells you when Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase are on the field together. That's part of the fast start too, and getting those guys out of the gate healthy. That hopefully makes a difference. And that's why I like that you brought it up as it pertains to the beginning of last season. James, as we continue here, let's get into Dalton Risner's early role with the Cincinnati Bengals. Now that you've had a chance to talk with him, we've heard from Dalton Risner in Bengals Stripes. We'll continue the conversation there. Coming up next.
NFL season is back, which means game time is back. And let's just say you decide last second, I'm going to go up to Cleveland. I'm going to watch Joe Burrow throw for 2,000 yards against the division rival. Oh man, Browns fans are going to hate me saying that. But the point is game time is the perfect place to get last minute tickets, to get, well, that stadium atmosphere and get deals, 100% authentic tickets. Game time is the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's fast, it's easy, and it's backed by the Game Time guarantee. And I've used Game Time, and here's how it works. You pull up the Game Time app, in a couple of taps, you get amazing deals. You're talking about NFL games at unbeatable prices. You can go to your favorite stadiums, watch, well, your favorite team, the Cincinnati Bengals. And the Bengals have a lot of awesome road games. Use the Game Time app to do that. It's not just Cleveland, of course. You got the Green Bay game in October, Minnesota in a few weeks as well. Football season is here. Maybe you want to see Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions when they come to town in week 5. You got to get the Game Time app today, where you're going to be able to create an account and use code LOCKEDON NFL. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDON NFL, Locked On NFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today.
Another really exciting part of the NFL season starting is FanDuel helping to make sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't miss offer. Right now, new customers, when you bet your first $5, if you win that bet, you're going to get $300. $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Again, that's a $5 bet. And if you win that bet, $300 for new customers in bonus bets across the app. We were just talking about those week 1 odds. The Cincinnati Bengals 5.5-point road favorites, the second biggest road favorite of the week in week 1 NFL action. And the Bengals have been heavy favorites, it seems like, in recent week 1s. If you think the Bengals are going to start fast this year and take care of business, you can put your $5 bet on the Cincinnati Bengals with the points and get your $300 in bonus bets if that bet comes through. If you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app today by visiting FanDuel.com. You can get started there. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
All right, Jake, let's get to Dalton Risner. And you're right. It's official with him. The Bengals inking him to a 1-year deal. He talked in the locker room on Thursday in front of probably double-digit cameras. We were waiting on him as he walked in. He'll wear number 66. For those wondering, he's sticking with the number that he's had throughout his time in the NFL. But this is obviously an exciting signing. It's someone that you described it as raises the floor of the offensive line the last time we talked about Dalton. And there's no doubt about that. The thing that I think is going to be interesting as we get into this week, both Zach Taylor, both Dalton Risner are more than open to him being active for Sunday's game against the Browns. Are they open to him starting? Is that door open at all? Zach Taylor said he will play guard, didn't specify which side. It's going to be the right side for sure. Jalen Rivers moved over to the left side during the lone practice that we saw with the backups. But it's going to be interesting to see how long it takes for him to start. I wouldn't expect him to start this week, but it wouldn't shock me if he's starting in the near future.
There's so many things that I want to get to there, including Jalen Rivers. Before we do that, just want to remind people, and I'm only going to remind you a few more times, we have that listener survey going on right now. You can check it out in the show notes or at lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You're going to just answer a few questions about what you like about your favorite Locked On podcast, hopefully us, what you don't like, hopefully not us, and answer questions about our advertising. Again, lockedonpodcast.com/survey. You're going to have a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards if you go fill that out. So a few things I wanted to get to there. One, so interesting that Jalen Rivers moved as soon as Dalton Risner arrives in the building. Lucas Patrick has experience playing across all 3 interior positions. Jalen Rivers played on the left side in college. And that's one of the things that I really like about adding Risner. Rivers was fine at right guard, but he got 2 full games of NFL preseason experience and multiple weeks of practice on the right side there and got his feet wet in playing on the right side of the offensive line, which he didn't do at Miami. At least as far as I know, he didn't do that in his college career. So the fact that he now is back on his left side where ostensibly he should be more comfortable because he spent a lot of time playing there, getting to work on both sides. I like that for his development, for one. But two, I mean, man, that's interesting. Like you get Risner and he's played both sides too. And
Mhm.
immediately you're like, we're gonna start working on the left side, Jalen. You're I guess not in the conversation to start anyway at right guard, which I don't think anyone thought he was. But
Mm.
man, I just find that to be a really interesting move.
Well, I think what it is they knew he needed to be the backup right guard at minimum until Risner gets in the building.
Right.
And now it's like, all right, well, now we can have you take some reps on the left side and you can get comfortable because they've basically been get used to the right side, get used to the right side, get used to the right side. But he obviously is versatile. And so now work on that because I think in an ideal world, when you look at this Bengals offensive line long term, and I love Matt Lee, but I think he might be on the outside looking in of the game day 8 because what you could do is have a starting lineup of the 4 that we already know, right? Orlando Brown Jr., Amarius Mims, Ted Karras, and then Dylan Fairchild. And then if Risner is your starter at right guard, Lucas Patrick can back up both interior spots and center. You can have Cody Ford be your swing tackle if you want. Maybe that's someone else that you go with at the tackle position long term. But I think initially that'll be the case. And then that other spot doesn't have to be a center only. Could be. Maybe you do that, but it doesn't have to be. And it can be a Jalen Rivers. It can be someone like that. And I do think that could be where you go. It just gives you a little bit more flexibility.
The dream for me still involves Matt Lee being part of that 8, just because I still think he does something that the rest of the players on this roster don't do. But I understand what you're saying is the center only part of this. The other part of the dream for me is that someone surpasses Cody Ford as the first tackle off the bench. That someone being, I guess, just Jalen Rivers. That's the only other backup
Ooh.
offensive lineman on this team that you would
Oh.
expect to play tackle. I know Dalton Risner played tackle way back when we wanted the Cincinnati Bengals to draft him in the second round.
I got a name for you.
Go ahead.
Javon Foster.
Off the practice
40,
squad?
41. I just mean long term, like 41
Sure.
career starts at Missouri, 4th round pick, was a top 30 visit, kind of an under the radar addition to the Bengals practice squad last week. He was in the Amarius Mims draft class, last year's draft. Jacksonville had some coaching turnover. They move on from him. The Bengals pluck him. If there is a developmental swing tie, and I'm not even saying it would be this year, but I think that could be an option, a name worth knowing.
How interesting, by the way. We've totally pivoted here, talking about the practice squad guys. Javon Foster, a move that I don't think we've talked about,
No, we haven't.
replacing Cochran,
Devin Cochran.
Names on the practice squad. Cochran, a guy that I had on my 53-man projection.
Me too. Yeah.
And I talked myself into Andrew Coker. They do end up with 9 offensive linemen. Now with 2 tackles on the practice squad and Andrew Coker and Javon Foster, Jackson Kirkland, who will probably be playing guard, Seth McLaughlin at center. I am a little bit surprised that they opted to replace Cochran, who they've had around longer and have had around in NFL regular season games. Maybe it was just an injury. Maybe he just wasn't going to be able to play enough. But that is a fascinating move. Good call bringing that up. The game day active 8 on the offensive line will be very interesting if Dalton Risner is ready to go for week 1.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they just give him a week to continue to acclimate while they figure it out. But because Cody Ford is going to be active, right? Even if out of these names, Risner, Lee, Rivers, I like those guys better, at least for their potential. The coaching staff trusts Cody Ford a lot. And I think he's going to be up. So which other 2 guys it is, because Cody Ford is also versatile. Now you have a bunch of versatility there potentially with your backups besides Matt Lee. which is why you're bringing up that he might not be in that game day activate. A very interesting decision under the radar for the Bengals in week 1.
Yeah, it is. And I love Matt Lee. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I think Lucas Patrick is an ideal backup at multiple spots, and I do value him. And I also think he's probably going to start this week. How long? We'll see. That's up to him. But the Bengals, they've added Noah Fant. They added Dalton Risner. Is a safety next? We'll discuss it next. Today's show is brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. And look, I've been telling you for weeks that I was going to do a guillotine league for the first time ever. And I drafted mine on Saturday night. And obviously I used Yahoo Fantasy. I have multiple Yahoo Fantasy football leagues. And don't tell the Bengals this, but I might have some Bengals on my teams as well. And so whether you're a first timer or you're a veteran creating your millionth league, when football season is here, it's time to get in on all the fun with Yahoo Fantasy. If you want to try out a guillotine league, and you should, because it's really cool. Here's how it works. By the way, the lowest scoring team gets eliminated weekly until one team is left standing. It was 14 teams. I was drafting 14th. It was a new challenge. I love fantasy football. I've done a bunch of different leagues and a bunch of different rules. 2 quarterbacks, tight end, multiple flexes, all these other things, PPR, non-PPR, half PPR, all these. Never done a guillotine league. And so Yahoo Fantasy is perfect. Whether you want to play instantly with friends, you can try the new Draft with Friends mode. If you prefer the classics, get your crew together, go head to head in a private league, and no crew, no problem. Join a public league like I did in the guillotine league, the easiest way to play. The NFL season kicks off this Thursday, September 4th. Don't wait. Start your league now. Draft now at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. That's yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl.
We're also brought to you today by Monarch Money. Monarch Money knows that it can be hard to name all your financial accounts or what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, investment accounts. When you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's where Monarch Money comes in. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface, whether you're using it on your computer, on your laptop, or on your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You don't have to organize everything. You just link all of your accounts in minutes, and then you'll see your clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money. You can link all your accounts, and maybe you'll immediately spot a few subscriptions you're not using. It's very easy to lose track of those. You maybe get that notification every now and then when it renews, but annual subscriptions, maybe you forgot you had it, and you need to get on top of canceling those subscriptions you're not using. Monarch can make that easy. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks with Monarch Money. You can use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser. You'll get half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
All right, Jake, let's get to a little pepper. A little pepper. It would be nice if the Bengals defense had a little pepper. And Jabril Peppers released by the Patriots on Friday. We've talked about Justin Simmons. We've talked about multiple different safeties and bringing in a veteran safety really throughout the offseason. I mean, for 6 months now, 7 months, we've talked about safety. Jabril Peppers, you interested? You not interested? Spoiler alert, I would be very, very interested in, hopefully they view him the way they viewed Noah Fant, which is this, guy that's proven and can fall into your lap. Let's go after him. I would be in on Jabril Peppers.
Yeah, I think I would too. It's really weird though. I will say that his whole situation a little bit weird. We were trying to figure out why he got released. Patriots fans not happy he got released, but he apparently didn't win the starting job in New England and was out there playing in their 3rd preseason game when all the players that were making that roster were not playing. He's owed $3.1 million, almost $3.2 million $2.5 million from the Patriots in 2025 is guaranteed for his salary. So any team that acquires him, there's probably an offset there where the Patriots still have to pay him $2.5 million this year. Should make him much cheaper for any team interested in his services to acquire. At least that's what Over the Cap says about his contract situation. He got what was the signing bonus he got from the Patriots? Can't find it now. But
he got a signing bonus.
It was, I think, $10 million signing bonus. that he got from the Patriots, maybe a little bit less than that $9 million signing bonus. So he's been paid recently. Should be cheap for a team that wants to pick him up on a 1-year flyer. I just
$6 million signing bonus, according to Spotrac.
the math isn't mathing for me.
3 for
That's okay.
24.
2 deals. That's what happened here. He
Okay.
had multiple deals from the Patriots. All right.
There you go.
$6 million signing bonus, had guaranteed salary this year. I was combining 2 deals, and that's how I came up with the $9 million number. Regardless, he's been paid recently. Shouldn't be too expensive to pick up. Very low risk option. Should be a low risk option, I think, for a team like the Cincinnati Bengals if they wanted to see what's going on with Jabril Peppers. What's weird is that he lost a job in New England. Coaching staff changeover there. Maybe that's all it is. The previous staff liked him. New staff doesn't fit their scheme as well. But a little bit weird that he lost a job. Weird situation last year where he's on the commissioner's list for 8 weeks when he was dealing with some legal charges, DV charge that was immediately dismissed when it got to court, and a drug possession charge, and then was immediately re-enlisted from the commissioner's list. Had an injury late last year too, so he only played 6 games last year, I think.
Yep.
So some weirdness around Jabril Peppers, but when we've seen him on the field, at least last year, he still looked like an NFL player, playing a lot of deep free safety last year in the last couple of years. After early in his career, he was more of a box guy.
Both.
Seems like something that fits, right?
And former college teammates with Jordan Kovacs, the Bengals safeties coach now, and Michigan. The Bengals, they've had those Michigan ties. I can already see the Jeff Hobson story for Bengals.com about Michigan ties, and it's Kovacs, and it's Chris Jenkins, and it's DJ Turner and Daxell talking about how they watched Jabril Peppers when they were being recruited or whatever. Like, you could totally see the path there to that happening. And I hope it does. I really do. Now, that's given the info that we have. We can only operate with what we know. And so, yeah, is there unknowns? Sure. But it's not like this guy has gotten into a bunch of trouble throughout his career. And so that those charges get dismissed. He was on the exempt list, all those things. Well, that seems to be out. Like, it's not like there's Patriots reporting now on that being why he was gone, why he was out. They obviously had a complete regime change. Mike Vrabel is trying to get his guys in, and that does matter, especially when you're a coach like Mike Vrabel, bringing in your guys, your culture, all of those things. And so maybe it wasn't a great fit. They were also trying to move on from the other safety that is making more. What's his name? He signed a deal last year.
Kyle Duggar. So clearly they want some change in that room. You can keep your Duggar for now, Patriots. Give me a little Peppers. And yeah, the funny thing would be, because the Patriots claimed Eric Gregory, who was released by the Bengals to make room for Dalton Risner, if it's basically an Eric Gregory for Jabril Peppers swap, which obviously I think a lot of people would do. I certainly would do. And if the Bengals did show interest in Jabril Peppers, that's what it could end up being, because they signed Gregory in the same transaction in the same day that they released Jabril. Yeah, it has been described. I would love that irony. I think we would all trade a fringe defensive tackle. No matter what you think of Eric Gregory's upside, the Bengals liked him as an undrafted free agent. He was their highest paid undrafted free agent. They kept him on the 53 to try to keep him on the roster. Patriots have a very early waiver priority, and they prioritized Gregory. So they also obviously had a high opinion of him. But with Peppers, it sounds like from what I've seen coming out of those that cover New England, they don't like the scheme fit. And it's interesting because Peppers has been playing so much deep safety and in recent years, but he's being described as more of a box physicality guy, similar to how you think about Kyle Duggar as box safeties.
Yep.
And I think it's just interesting that he's suddenly being described as maybe not suddenly, that he's being described as not a fit for playing a lot of deep safety, when that's been mostly what he's been doing in the last couple of years. And maybe they just like their other guys more for that. But that's what the common line has been for Patriots writers. The Patriots beat is that they see Peppers as more of a box safety, and they want safeties that are more deep cover safeties. And that's why they went in that direction. I would take either. if you're the Bengals. I'm happy with either safety. If you're good at either of those jobs, I'm happy with that.
And I think a lot of Bengals fans are like, oh, well, we need free safety. And it's like, yeah, sure. The Jesse Bates scars, but it's not like you have peak Von Bell in there. It's not like you have one of they're both question marks. It's not like one is settled and you just need the other one. Well, those days are long gone now. And it doesn't mean that Jordan Battle and Geno Stone can't play. Maybe they will. But Jabril Peppers has been better than both. Even when Geno was at his best. Look at what his contract was when he hit the free agent market versus what Jabril Peppers has made. The NFL is telling you their value, even if one's released now. So, and I know that's a very high level way to look at it, and it's not that simple. And you could find examples to disprove that and all this. But my point is, like, Peppers is established, and if he's still got some game left, and he did, speaking of week one, he made plays week one against the Bengals last year. They're going to have a conversation about it. Whether or not they bring him in, who knows? There are going to be some that completely dismiss this, Jake. Well, I would say, and why I mentioned Noah Fant, Dalton Risner, dismiss at your own risk here. Because if on the Bengals, this just fell into your lap and you can address another weakness with a proven guy that could come in and, no, he's not going to start day one. It's game week. But he could come in and he can help you pretty soon. And that's what you need on the back end.
And there's not necessarily a huge financial cost. That's why I really belabored that point. We went on a little bit longer on the finances than I intended to because we were confused about the signing bonus and James had to correct me. But the point I was trying to make is he shouldn't cost a lot. And so to your point, like I've written off Noah Fant. I wrote off Dalton Risner after it came and went. I was like, oh, they're doing it. Oh, they're not doing it. Oh, they did it. So I think that's a good point that at this point, we shouldn't be saying they won't make these moves that seem obvious to us because they have made some of these kinds of moves at this time of year recently. And we have a couple of recent examples even this year, like you said. So it'll be interesting to see if Peppers is the next one on that list with all that cap space they seem to still have, especially with that void year for Trey Hendrickson. We're still waiting for those contract details so we can really dig in there. You know how I like to dig into my contract details.
You know what I want? And I know you do. I want you to have to watch Jabril Peppers film this week. That's what I want.
I'm waiting.
Game week, Jabril Peppers. Pepper it up.
I'm not watching it before he signs this time. People yelled at me. It's not a jinx anymore, though. Just saying. We'll see if that happens. If it does happen, obviously we'll have you covered here on Locked On Bengals as soon as we can. Until then, it's game week. Get ready. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Locked On Bengals podcast. Who dey, and have a good one.